Welcome to Career Coffee Chat Live. So my big question for you today, are you thinking about making a career pivot? Whether that is into a different industry, another profession, another role, or maybe even you're thinking about striking out on your own to become an entrepreneur. Have you ever entertained any of these ideas or actively considering making a career pivot or career shift? This is the show for you. So welcome to Career Coffee Chat Live. My name is Erin Urban, or Coachy Urban. You can find out more about me at coachyurban.com. And if you've never seen my smiling face before, well, what I do is I am a certified career strategist and executive coach, and I help people remove career roadblocks so they can achieve more impact and more income. And last week, I published my very first book, Elevate Your Career for More Impact and Income, right over my shoulder here, and you can get it too at Amazon.com. And I was just sharing with our special guest today that I'm still kind of at a loss for words about, what happened, how successful it was, and the whole thing is just overwhelming to me. I'm not sure I'm not sure what to say. It's just been such a journey, and I appreciate all of you for sharing in that journey. So as you tune in, speaking of sharing, please say hi, say your name, and say where you're from. I'd love to welcome you to the show. Now, today is a very, very special show. So no matter where you are tuning in from in the world, you will probably have heard of Dr. Natalia. Now, Dr. Natalia is also known as the LinkedIn unicorn, and she is a LinkedIn expert. But most importantly, she's also an expert on how to make a successful career pivot. She is obsessed with coach consulting people who want to build an international, sustainable, purposeful thought leadership, personal brand on LinkedIn, particularly now in the future of work, and individuals who want to become a voice in their niche, get more clients, get better jobs, and have a positive impact on the world. So please connect with her at thinknatalia.com. And I'm very excited to have her on the Career Coffee Chat show today to talk about how to get unstuck, finding career clarity and pivot successful, and what is branding anyway, and what really matters on LinkedIn, as well as how to leverage LinkedIn when it comes to growing your career in any industry. Without further ado, I'd love to welcome to the show Dr. Natalia. Lovely to have you on the show today. I'm so thrilled. Thank you for tuning in. And for all of you around the world, please say hi, say where you're from. And if you have any questions at any time during the show, know that we will pause and answer them. I'd love to hear from you. So you've had a major career pivot yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, for having me on your show. And once again, congratulations on the best-selling book. I am thrilled for you, and I wish you so many more book sales, because it's about inspiring people and showing them that they don't have to suffer in their current career. And I think that's what you beautifully illustrate with your work. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. It like we were saying before, it's still something of it's a bit surreal.
Yeah.
It really is a whole journey. It's a bit surreal. It's not something that I, quote unquote, woke up this morning and said, or that morning and said, oh, I'm going to be a bestseller. It's not really how it works. And so thank you so much for your well wishes. And you are also an author. You have a really cool book out there. So tell us a little bit more about that, Personal Branding with LinkedIn with Dr. Natalia. And she is a LinkedIn branding expert. But before we get into the whole LinkedIn and the branding and the career pivots and how you be successful, you went through something yourself. You had an epiphany, a career pivot as well, that aha moment. Would you like to share a little bit about what that was? What happened? What was going on at the time? And what made you wake up? What was that catalyst that gave you that,
Absolutely. So I studied social science. And when you study social science in Germany, where I'm from, this has a very bad reputation. When you're a social scientist in the States or in the UK, it's like, wow, that person knows a lot about human behavior, and we can, maybe hire her here, and she can do that there. And yes, I'm German, but my parents come from Poland. So I have always been treated a little bit funny in Germany as a teenager and as a young woman. So a sentence that I heard quite often was, yeah, you studied social science. Social science, with that, you will not find a job. And with all my respect, you're a woman and you're not real German. So you at the job market, good luck. So if you want to make it, I know, I heard that quite a few times. I was like, as if I would be, I don't know where that negativity comes from, but whatever. I was like, okay, let me remember that. So I asked, what's the solution? And everybody said, you need to have international work experience. You need to improve your English. You need to go abroad. And I thought that in some shape or form definitely makes sense to me. But I didn't want to go abroad during my studies because I was on the highest level of my dancing career. Dancing is my passion. And I realized
that.
yeah, so I was like, nah, dancing, I never wanted to become a dancer or choreographer because the highest level of achievement would be either choreographer, and that segment is, let's say, taken by somebody or people with a totally different demographic that I cannot become due to biological reasons. And then, I mean, on the other side, the highest level or the biggest career achievement that I could have as a dancer would be having my own dancing school. And I realized, oh, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. And look at me now.
All right.
Hilarious. Yeah, it was never, right? So I realized, okay, dancing is not that thing, but let me study social science and let me keep on dancing. And so I had a kind of like a conversation with God or the universe. And I said, listen, allow me to study and to dance, but the first job that I will get once I finish my studies will be abroad, and I will improve my English and I will get the respect and I will have everything that I need to have a good career. And I mean, you know about the power of words and the power of intentions and visualization and manifestation. So exactly that happened. While I was writing my master thesis, I got a job opportunity or a job offer from the United Arab Emirates, working for the Abu Dhabi Education Council. And I thought, well, this is genius. This is brilliant because I'm still writing on my master thesis. This will be a super amazing transition from university into the job market. My job was to set up a library from scratch, which I did for an institute, a vocational institute and I did that for 3.5 years. Then I changed into private economy, because I realized working for the government, that kind of job wasn't for me, at least in that kind of age group, because it was great because it was safe and there was not much performance. It's something that I would appreciate if I was, I don't know, 30 or 20 years older, but I had, in German you say you have these little horns and they're very sharp and you need to get them a little bit number. So you need to just get rid of your energy. So I was looking for performance and opportunities, and everybody says, if you change from government jobs into private economy, there's definitely more competition and more performance. So do that, young girl or lady. And I said, okay, fine, let me do that. Then I worked there for 2.5 years. And I have achieved everything that I needed to achieve. So on paper, everything made sense. So that means I had a fancy title. I drove a great sports car, which is important because we Germans have I would say, erotic relationship to our cars. Mm-hmm. I had the money that I wanted. I had the freedom that I wanted. I had everything I wanted. On paper, it made sense. But on the inside, I was just dying. Oh, Erin, I was consuming way too much coffee, way too much sugar. At a certain stage, also too much alcohol. I was shopping like a crazy person, and I stopped laughing. I turned more and more sarcastic, and I realized nothing makes sense. I mean, I did everything that society taught me to do, but I feel useless. I don't feel successful, and I live based on the illusion that I'll be happy in my next job. Well, And then quit everything, locked myself away for 9 months, allowed myself or gifted myself a sabbatical. And during that sabbatical, I gave my best to unlearn everything that I've ever learned or thought I knew about careers, about work, about myself, about life. And this is when I built my second life and my career of purpose.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story. And really hit home. And for those of you tuning in, I just want to say a quick hi, Paula, Amy, Mark, good to see you. Curtis tuning in from Houston, Texas, as well as Rosanna. Good to see all of you this morning. And if, for any of you tuning in from around the world, or if you're watching the replay later, let me know if it resonates with you when you're in that moment. And I know I certainly had that as well. where on paper everything looked great, but inside it just it, it was like it was just empty. I was not in alignment with what I was doing in my career, and it was like this empty feeling of gratification that really wasn't gratification. It wasn't fulfillment. And I'll challenge those of you tuning in as well that our society brainwashes us to believe that you should do this, and this, and then you are a good person. You are a contributing member to society. You should go to college or get a degree or get vocational education, whatever. You should get a job. Then you should work your way up. And you should also, by the way, get married and have kids. All the things you should do, and we're shooting all over ourselves. And then one day we all wake up. Well, some of us wake up and we go, this is not in alignment with what I truly want to believe, what I truly believe, my core being. And for a lot of people, that's exactly what they want to do, and that's great and that's fine, but it's not for everyone. And what I'm seeing too, and Dr. Natalia, share with me if you've seen this with your clients and the people you work with, people over the pandemic, what I call the pandemic pause, a lot of light bulbs going off. Wait a minute. I've been stuck, frustrated, and unfulfilled in my role or my job or my profession or my industry. This is not working for me. I don't like this. What do I do?
I mean, first of all, it's about acknowledging the way how it is right now. It's not all right. I don't feel aligned, as you said, and that is okay, because a lot of people are ashamed, or they beat themselves up in the sense of, well, I should be grateful. Other people don't have a job, or I shouldn't want so much. Who am I that always needs to be in a way how I want it to be? So it's an inner judge or whatever crazy voice in our head who says that. So when you realize that you're not aligned, that you're out of balance, and your body and your spirit or whatever is telling you just leave for change, acknowledging is the first step. That's a big step for a lot of people. The majority just swallow it down or try to suppress it with alcohol, sugar, shopping, or any kind of other external sources or drugs. And the second thing then is to design the time or the space, or both, to look inside and to ask yourself, so what is it that I truly want to do? And then I believe that we have been raised or educated, or call it brainwashed, in a way that we very often know what we don't want, but we don't know what we want. So if you ask an average person, what is it that you want? They say, I don't want to do this, and I don't want to do this, and I hate this, and I hate da 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 da. It's a better start than no start at all. But maybe when you've written down everything that you hate or dislike, what's the flip side of it? So we talked about the shadow side. What is the light side of that? What is something that excites you? And start with 10 minutes per day and with journaling. Maybe even ask your parents or look through some old photography albums and check out what you did as a kid. What was it that you were totally excited about when you did it, or when you heard about that? You could do huge eyes and everything else didn't matter and time stood still. The chances that this is what your true calling or purpose, or however you want to call that, is about is relatively high. But when you don't design this time or space, you're never going to find out. And if you realize that this is too difficult for you, then hire a professional who can guide you along the process. Somebody who does nothing else but exactly that for the last 5, 7, 10, 15, 20 years, who can help you getting faster from where you are right now to the next level, step, whatever. And when you suffer with somebody, it's also half of the suffering, kind of. You don't make these mistakes. It's simpler. And yeah, I just don't understand why people want to do all of this hard, terrible, tedious work on their own, instead of asking somebody who's done it before, who maybe has been in their shoes, and kind of surrender to this experience, or maybe even experiment.
That's right. And also take some of the fear out of it, because going into the unknown, change is scary for pretty much everybody if you're human. And, and going against societal norms or what we've told ourselves we should do or how we should be or should behave, and shedding those negative labels, those self-sabotaging feelings of guilt and obligatory habits that don't serve us. It can be a challenge, and connecting with someone and partnering with someone who has either been there and gone through that or professionally does this is very, very helpful. I know with my clients, one of the first things I ask them when they start talking about just shifting careers. So I'm in a career, I don't really like it, things aren't working out for me, I want to shift a career into something else, move those transferable skills. I start asking them, okay, so in all likelihood, with all the roles that you've done, it's not necessarily that you hate all of them. There's probably an aspect of each of those that you enjoyed. What is that? And it's really pulling out that, as you mentioned, what did you like? What lit you up? Where do you show up most powerfully? And uncovering your gifts. Because we all talk about passion, and passion's great. However, you can be very passionate about something you have no talent in whatsoever.
Yeah, that's this sweet spot of, how do you call it, ikigai?
Yeah, exactly. It's that sweet spot, that intersection of your strengths, your interests, your expertise, and you can leverage that as a springboard into something new. Because with you leveraged a lot of the knowledge that you had and then molded it into something beautiful to present and help people all over the world. So speaking of, the result of that, for those of you who, shame on you, have never seen Dr. Natalia before, now you're a consultant, you're an international speaker, you are a leading edutainer, not only in the Middle East, but also internationally as well. And you help people, thrive. So my question for you is, what was, and this is going to be a tough question because it's never just one thing. And you always get the question, what was that one thing that, whatever. And you're like, I don't know, it's like 14 different things.
I'll give my best to give you 1.5 and 2.
1 or 2 or 5. Those things that helped you get from where you were. You took the sabbatical, you had the ha-ha moment, you really put those pieces together, and you said, this is how I want to then transform myself to the world. What was that thing that made that transformation successful for you? Because a lot of people are like going, okay, I kind of know maybe what I want to do, but I don't know how to go about it.
Well, if I really had to focus on one thing, like the big one, it would be faith. And I ask myself, what is it faith in? Is it faith in God? Is it faith in something bigger than myself? Is it faith in the good will win? Is it faith in my skills? And most probably it was a mix of all of that. Mm-hmm. I knew that I was crawling and I was miserable, and I went through emotional pain and spiritual pain, and actually physical pain. But something told me, and as bizarre as this may sound, we are not born, or we are not on this planet to suffer. So I need to learn a lesson. And this has a reason. This will be part of, I don't know, my story, of something that I tell people later on, which means there is a later on, which means I'm not going to die. There will be sunshine again. There is this thing. And if I can just I take one step every day and I learn something new, or I implement what I've read or heard or whatever, if I just do this one thing every day, that's what all of these American motivational speakers talk about, all of these coaches and whatever, they say this over and over again. And if so many people say it, maybe there's some truth in it. And combining this with the belief or the faith that there is something that I'm heading towards encouraged me to do the work. And the only thing that I compared myself with was literally the person that I was yesterday. Again, it sounds totally cliche, but I asked myself, what can I do to become one step better? And the right people and the right opportunities will find me if I go out and give my best to stay open, although everything that I want to do is cry and crawl and feel sorry for myself. And it was painful, it was ridiculous, it was humiliating, but yeah, it worked out eventually. And if I would have worked with a coach faster, I would have arrived faster. But I was full of ego. And for some reason, I was like, no, not yet, not for this phase, because I really need to feel the pain. Stupid old me. Yeah.
Well, in truth, being a very driven personality myself, I will be very transparent in saying it's not just that we want to feel the pain; it's just that we think we know best, and we
Of
can
course.
figure it out. And it's a shortcoming if you ask for help.
Yeah. Absolutely, because only weak people ask for
Only
help.
weak
It
people
is
ask for
also right. It's kind of like a shortcut, and it's not the real thing. I'm like, where
Yeah.
does this thinking come from? So yeah,
Tuning in can relate to that. If you ever, I just said really bluntly, it's because we struggle to ask for help that we don't reach out to other people, and that is something inside of us, our ego getting in our own way. We self-sabotage because we don't ask for help. Now, I'll share with you just recently in my launch of my book, I accepted help. And I had to be okay. And my publicist, by the way, said, you need to be okay with asking for help because more people care about you than you think. And he was right. A lot of people, more people did care about me than I thought. And asking for help was awkward and it didn't feel natural to me. But at the end of it, when everything started to unfold, it's this beautiful experience that I realized I need to get over myself. And yes, me, coach, I've been on a long journey of self-evolution and growth and trying to just be a little bit better every day. Yeah, I still have a lot to learn. So.
we all have, and we will always have. Like, show me that one person who believes they have figured it all out and they know about everything. These are the people you should avoid in your life. It's impossible.
No, yeah. Well, it's a great thing because I look at it like this. You always have something to look forward to. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things anyone ever said to me. Jim Thompson said to me a long time ago. He said, may you always have something to look forward to. And that was one of the most beautiful things anyone had ever said to me. And it's stuck. It's wonderful. So may you always have something to look forward to. And, obviously the connotation there being a positive thing. But you're right. A lot about, when we're truly evolving ourselves and pivoting either with our careers or just tearing down to the foundation or rebuilding, a lot of it has to do with faith in yourself, faith that there's going to be a tomorrow, and mindset. Mindset is so important. In fact, my next article, I'm doing a career growth series on my blog. And I think my next article talks about mindset being one of the number one things. It's like, how to make a successful job transition, job search. And mindset, number one, because whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. And that's
100%. Fully agree. Absolutely. And you can't, the old mind and the old mindset got you to where you are right now. So if you want to become a new you need to think in a different way. You need to feel in a different way. And then based on that, you're going to act in a different way. When you still have those wrong beliefs about yourself, about life, about career, when you, again, keep on doing the stuff that you've done before, how do you expect different results? It doesn't make sense. So figure out what kind of wrong assumption you have, replace it with something that actually serves you, and then do the work and be open, ask for help, and then when help comes, also accept it and receive. Because I know so many people who got to that point and then totally self-sabotage themselves and say, oh, no. Actually, now as it's there, I'm busy. I just need to, clean my windows or walk the dog.
Right. And Jill just asked a question. She said, no one knows everything. That's true. She also said, searching for new roles, I've had so many no responses because I didn't have all of the experience requirements for a job. Can employers be a bit more realistic about growth and experience? Yes, and Jill, that's unfortunate. I'm not sure which types of roles you're seeking because good leaders know that if there isn't any stretch room or room to grow, so some tension there's a gap that you can fill and evolve in your role, you will get bored and you will leave. And retention costs money. So good leaders do want some stretch room. Now, as far as education, certifications, and all the initials after your name, and you have to be Mr. and Mrs. Alphabet, well, unfortunately, our society as a whole, and I think internationally, let me know if that's true, Dr. Natalia, but we're seeing more of a push to more certifications and lots of little minor certifications too. Like everything you do has to be a certification involved. And unfortunately, the pandemic did not help that because a lot of people had time to get more certifications or get an MBA. And in fact, future of work, I would have to say in the next 5, 8, 10 years, if you want to be at the senior level, so in the C-suite or senior vice president level, you will have to have an MBA. And that is unfortunate because, no offense to anybody who has an MBA, but you don't have to have an MBA to be a very smart, wise, centered, balanced contributor to the company and a good leader.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it always depends on the company. Like some companies, it's part of their brand that they're like, oh, we're only hiring the best of the best of the best, only from these universities. So if you want to work for these companies, good luck. You're not going to stay there longer, like 2 years, 3 years, fine. And it's great for your CV. But the majority of employers, they just need something as a proof that you can really deliver what you say. And you can also prove that through content. You can prove that through continuously showing up and sharing your wisdom in articles, in podcasts, in LinkedIn live shows. I still don't understand why so many people don't build a thought leadership personal brand on LinkedIn and don't post about their coffee or their cat or about, oh, this is so funny, your happy cat. Exactly. It's like, but talk about your expertise. I mean, put yourself into the shoes of your potential dream job employer, person who would hire you, and ask yourself, what kind of problems do these companies have? If I would work in that position, what would my everyday tasks be? And based on that, you create content, which is not about, look at me, I'm the best. It's about, look at you, I'm serving you. This is what I've done in the past. And through that, the right people will see you. They might actually approach you and say, hey, I really like what you do, send us a CV. Or in some cases, and these cases are actually quite often, people see your content and they like what you put out there and they reach out to you and say, well, we actually don't have a vacancy. And you're like, yeah. But we like you so much. We want to create a position just for you. And actually one client that I work with, that was the thing. He started working as an intern. And he's a gentleman who's not at the beginning of his career, but he totally changed industries. And he said, swallow my ego, I started as an intern. He was an intern for, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. And then he was super sure that they would let him go. But all of the offices across the whole US, they were combining and thinking and whatever. And they put this money together and they created a position just for him because he was such an amazing asset to the company. And, once the internship was over, they're like, hey, we've created this position for you. And he's like, I'm sorry, you did what? And there you go. Of course, he accepted. And that's not one story in a million. That's the story that I hear over and over again. So start creating content that proves your expertise, serve, and take it from there.
Absolutely. In fact, that actually happened to me twice.
There you go.
Well, a long time ago, I'm dating myself, but when LinkedIn was just a little baby on the internet, just a new thing, I was frustrated in my job. I had reached kind of as far as I could go in my current profession at the time. And I had so many other skills. And I was just like, oh, I'm not using these skills. I was so frustrated. I didn't know what to do. So I started getting on LinkedIn and sharing what best practices, what worked to me in this project and that project. And as I grew and evolved in this role that I had just recently taken on, and started learning new things, I also was kind of alone. So I used LinkedIn as a way to reach out to other professionals in my specific path. And what that ended up doing was it ended up giving me a thought leadership. At the time, I didn't know it as that. I didn't know that was what I was doing. But that's what ended up happening. And then I was like, oh, this is what this is. Sharing articles, writing articles of my own, getting active on groups in my specific industry. So if you're thinking about making a career pivot or a career shift, start thinking about, okay, what does my potential employer want to see? Just like Dr. Natalia just mentioned. And then show up in that space, provide that information, share that information, be active in the conversation. You need to show up online. And I'll tell you one reason why this conversation is extremely important, particularly now. Moving forward into the future of work, online will be where it's at. In fact, that's already happened. The future is now. Resumes are going away. They're slowly dying. It's very slow death, but it is dying. LinkedIn right now is the #1 professional platform in the world. And if you are not on it and active on it, you're missing out. Also, note this, job seekers, LinkedIn is used by all recruiters, and they use it every day. And they source and vet candidates on LinkedIn all the time, no matter if you're sending in an application through other means. You need to be active on LinkedIn. So I actually did have people reach out to me for 2 jobs, and both of those jobs I accepted because they were good jobs. They're like, hey, we want you. You have shown up online as someone who knows what you're doing because of the content you share. And yeah, I get it's not super comfortable for a lot of people.
But you start somewhere. Nobody asked you to do a video or a LinkedIn Live as your first piece of content. Forget it. Start with what feels the most natural or what is the least amount of pain. Mm-hmm. If you have a great voice, then maybe do an audio file, put that onto a picture and upload that as a video. Or you write a status update with literally just 3 paragraphs. Or you, again, upload a nice picture to that. Or if you're good in drawing, you just draw something. If it's just about expressing yourself and not getting overwhelmed or not having this crazy expectation of my first piece of content is going to go viral and people in 50 years are going to talk about it. And I have a budget of $100,000 to film that first, whatever. No. Your first piece of content will be mediocre. Live with that. This is how everybody starts. But again, if you keep on publishing, it's going to be okay. And people are so busy with their own insecurities and problems that they're not going to kill you when you post the first post. Because a lot of people are like, oh, but what if I post and these people read it and a hater will comment and I'm going to die. No, the world will keep on turning. And if there really is a hater, which is very, very unrealistic, simply delete the comment, block that person, go somewhere, punch something, or go for a run, and you move on with your life. I know it sounds difficult in the beginning. We all have been there. I know how it feels, but this is the only thing that works.
Having a presence online is absolutely, it's non-negotiable now. If you want to further your career into the future of work, now, if you're sunsetting your career, maybe you don't really need to worry about it. But if you are thinking about thriving in your work, in your job, particularly now that we have very remote environments, remote workplaces, networking does not work the same way as it used to, and it won't moving forward. And that's another reason why you see more people looking for credentials and proof that you are or which say you are. So Chris had a question. And I want to make sure that I get Chris's question here. How do you find people that are willing to give you feedback? Great question. So, Chris, one of the things I recommend is you probably work with certain people, and people who give you feedback is ideally people who know and work with you on a regular basis. So, getting feedback from your mom or your brother or your sister or your spouse or whatever is great, but may not be as applicable to your career. So if you're thinking about career space, probably somebody you work with. And what I like to do is I like to reach out to those people who I know will not have any inhibitions about sharing what they truly feel. Now, you can do this in multiple different ways. You can do that one-on-one, saying, hey, I'm trying to work on, give them something specific. I'm trying to work on this. Do you have any feedback, insights? Or I've noticed I maybe have a gap here. What are your thoughts? Leave it open-ended, or provide a blind survey. So that's a survey where you collect their responses, and you're not privy to who said what. That's oftentimes the most productive way to get feedback. When I work with my clients, we use blind 360s. So we get feedback from their colleagues they work with most often, and that gives them a lot of insights into how other people perceive them, and are they actually showing up the way they think they are or not? Because some have habits that will get in our way, and some of them we actually know, but we just haven't paid any attention to it, become part of who we are. Like, I'm impatient, or I'm stubborn, or whatever, and we just brush it under the rug because it's part of who we are. But it's probably super annoying to somebody.
Yeah.
So
very
that's
true.
Get that feedback that you need to grow and remove those roadblocks that might be standing in your way. But when it comes to, and also if you're thinking about evolving your brand, Dr. Natalia, do you think that getting understanding of what your brand is right now, is that helpful?
Absolutely. I mean, I've just working on a course with a friend of mine, and I believe that it doesn't make sense to go out and market yourself or to look for a job when you don't know who you are, when you don't get the branding basics right, when you don't understand what you're the expert in, why people should choose you, what kind of problems you solve, in which industry, or what your potential field of activity is. If you're not aware of this, how on earth do you expect your future employer to know that? I mean, the worst answers I've got, or the worst emails from strangers, are like, "Dear sir, I'm looking for a job. I accept any job. Thank you." I would love to help. First of all, I'm not a sir, although I have a lot of masculine energy. Second of all, find out my name. Third of all, like, this doesn't work. You need to tell me what you want. Any job. How will you do any job? Most probably you can write, "I don't care." Great work ethics. Fantastic. Of course I'm going to hire you. And people also don't understand that when you ask somebody, "Can you help me finding a job?" that the person who recommends that person puts in their brand and their name and their work and reputation in that. So they will only recommend somebody of whom they know really goes all in, performs, and is interested in their job. So get this clarity and think out the perspective of, in a perfect world. I know it's impossible. It's crazy land that will never going to happen because we have all of these limiting beliefs and perceptions about what we are, what we deserve, don't deserve. But let's put all of that aside and ask yourself, based on what you really like, the experience that you have, and where you see yourself in the long term, what is it that you would like to do? Have this assessment, again, get some feedback, work with a coach, and then based on that, clearly communicate it to the outside world. And that will have a total different effect. I mean, it's a dance, it's a give and take. So before you have, unless you've done this work, don't go out, stay at home, fix this, and then go out online and say, "Here, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I'm looking for. Here's social proof, I'm really good at that. If you know somebody who can help me, fantastic." There's nothing, I mean, I would find this embarrassing if people then approach me and say, "Oh, cool, I've seen you looking for a job. So what are you good at and what do you want?" And you're like, everything, nothing. Then you upset these people because you're kind of wasting their time. They were there with a huge heart. They could have opened a door for you, but because you didn't do the homework, gone. This just annoys me.
We have to prepare. We're always preparing for the opportunity because we never know when the opportunity will arise. So we want to be prepared. And that preparation is knowing what you want, knowing your brand, and knowing how to express it. It's so important. And a tactical tip, If particularly, I mean, it doesn't matter if you are thinking about making a career shift or not or whatever, I recommend everybody develop what I call an impact inventory. And that is a comprehensive list of all your contributions that you've made across your career. It's
Nice.
super useful to try. When you start doing that, you oftentimes see patterns and like, oh, I seem to be really good at this quite often. Maybe I should do that if you're still thinking about what you want to do next. Uh,
Hmm.
but I highly recommend this because it has multiple benefits. One, it can go into your profile online, particularly relevant to where you want to go, by the way, because if you're not targeted and highly expressive of that brand and what you want to do online, you won't show up in recruiter searches. That's just how it works. That's the algorithm. You have to be
Yeah.
targeted. So knowing what you want, being able to express is very important. And having that backup story, that proof, that social proof that, okay, I have done this before. Here's how I contributed. And then being able to talk that language not only on your online profile, but in your resume, as well as performance reviews. Let's just say you're happy where you are, but you want to move up. Guess what? Having that data to express to decision makers that says, this is why I'll be a great fit in XYZ role is very important. Say you want to negotiate a better salary. You need to have something more than, I work really hard.
Yeah, everybody can say that with all our respect. And we've just hired another team member. And when I look at her CV, she, like for the role that we needed her in, like a lot of this was zero relevant. But I said, I want people with this and this and this and this trait. So I was like, I don't care about a CV. Don't send me a CV. Show me stories. I want to hear examples in which you had to do that. How would you engage with that? How would you prove this and this to me? So she comes from a total different industry, but she's just a perfect fit because of the social proof and experience that she had in total different fields, because of her mindset, because of her curiosity, and her incredible hunger for learning and growing. And I mean, I think more and more companies, especially small companies and medium-sized businesses, think exactly like that. Leave the CV at home. I don't care. Let's talk from human being to human being. I need this. How can you deliver? And I don't mean it in an intimidating way. I think I'm better than you. No. I want to make sure that you appreciate the job and that you like it and you have fun and you're qualified. Because when you do that, I know you're going to deliver better results for me, for my business. And I'm a business owner. So this is the way, just how it goes. But I think a lot of people are not aware of this combination. And for me, when I was still working for somebody, this kind of thinking, I didn't get it. It was too complex for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when coming full circle to that understanding, what is it that we're passionate or do we have that drive for? And stripping away all of the shoulds and the, well, this negative assumption, negative labels, all that, really getting down to our core and being able to show up powerfully as ourselves, as our authentic self. Because I'll find that oftentimes when we have all these labels and all this stuff plastered all over us, we cannot show up as our authentic self. At least that was true for me before my career pivot that I expressed in my book.
Yeah.
I was not showing up as my authentic self. I was showing up as somebody I thought I should be because that's the model that I had seen, that I thought was the way you should be, shoulding again on myself, should be at work. And when I had that career pivot and that swift kick in the rear, that I wasn't showing up quite the way I thought I was. Oops. I was able to kind of get rid of some of that, clear out some of that mental clutter to show up as who I really am. And when I did that and became much more authentically myself, and also in alignment with what I wanted to do, that's when things start to shine. When you're in alignment with what you want to do, with your strengths, your interests, your expertise, that's when you can show up so much more powerfully in any space. It's less effort to have any sort of influence or thought leadership or share content online. It's less effort for you to express your contributions during the interview when it matters. It's not as arduous.
Yeah.
But if you're fighting yourself and you're misaligned, yeah.
You're wasting energy, and wearing that mask or playing that role works for a certain period of time, but eventually you're just going to break down, or at a certain stage you're so upset or you're so angry, you just freak out or whatever happens, and you show the real or true self. And that very often doesn't end well. So yeah. Again, it's not the easiest thing to do, but with proper guidance and with being honest to yourself and forgiving yourself for what was, and knowing that there is better days to come, it is absolutely doable.
Yes. Before we wrap up, if anybody has any questions, please do pop them in the chat. And if you're watching later, feel free to pop your questions in the chat. I will see them and we'll get to them. It's been a pleasure talking with all of you today and introducing all of you to these concepts and having you a guest, Dr. Natalia, on my show. I really appreciate that. I do have one thing though before we exit, before we wrap up our time together. When it comes to this, this problem with asking for help, right? And then being online and knowing you have a presence online, I'm noticing something lately, that the highest performing posts are not those posts that are fancy with graphics, video, and all the things. It's actually the posts from individuals, just anybody, text only, asking a question.
Very true. Very true. Or sharing a story that is close to their heart, an everyday story with a message, with a learning. And this is the beautiful way how LinkedIn changes at the moment. Yes, you have thought leadership content and you have motivation and inspiration, but you have a lot of people actually going out there and saying, I don't know, can you recommend somebody I'm looking for? Or, hey, I was such an idiot. I made this mistake and I want to share it with you because I want to show you how I've grown and maybe it will inspire another person. So do it. Go out there, start with that one piece of content and start with it today, because the world will keep on turning. And again, other people are just busy focusing on their own insecurities and problems. So in some weird shape or form, you're not as important as you think you are. And that in a good way.
On the flip side, we have a lot more impact than we give ourselves credit for too.
Yeah.
I mean, even the most introverted person in the world will impact over 20,000 people in their lifetime.
Exactly. So it's a balance act. And knowing when to pull which card will get you to where you want to be.
One of my friends, a successful entrepreneur, she shared last week, she said, it's not about perfection, it's about consistency.
Yeah.
And the most successful people, no matter if you're an entrepreneur or, working for in the corporate America or corporate world anywhere internationally, it's about consistently being true to yourself, true to all your authentic self, and in alignment with what you want to do, and being consistent in that path. It's not necessarily the instant gratification game. We would like it to be. We would like to just be like, I just do this one thing and everything happens, and oh yes, that would be nice. But
that's just not reality. So also be consistent in showing up. Show up consistently on LinkedIn with that one piece of content every week and see what happens.
It's been such a pleasure having you on, Dr. Natalia.
Likewise, thank you. It was an amazing, beautiful, and very deep conversation.
Very deep conversation. Hopefully
people implement.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully all of you tuning in have gotten some great and golden nuggets out of this conversation. And like I said before, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat at any time. And it's been just an amazing journey, overall the past couple of weeks. And I'm so thrilled to have you online. Thank you for showing up very late your time. Almost on the other side of the globe. So I really appreciate you and you sharing your story and how you're able to successfully pivot from where you were to the amazingly successful entrepreneur that you are today. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I appreciate all of you participating and tuning in to the Career Coffee Chat Show. Until next time, ta-ta for now.
Mm-hmm.